Hey man,
Hey,
thanks for your 2 minutes patience. I was in back-to-backs.
it's all good. I get it.
Super! So, how was it to record after all the triple rounds of feedback?
I didn't. I tried to record this morning. I didn't get to it. Just got a bunch of shit on my mind. Yeah, not there. I, I in order for me to like, do a speech, I feel like an impactful speech, right? Like what I'm gonna do in a day or two, whenever it is that I got to do it. Like I got to be fully present, and my mind is just not there. I have a meeting now at 10 for some business stuff. My wife has some health shit that she's going through, and yeah, like whatever, just not there.
Sorry
So
about that.
didn't get to it.
Sorry to
Uh,
hear. Would it
yeah,
be would it be a win for you? This is what my proposal would be, and I have always experienced this as super, super helpful if you do it now live, and then I'll give you feedback.
yeah, yeah. We could do it. I guess I'm just gonna pretense that I'm not giving it my all right now. I'm kind of gonna walk through it, as I say, right? Like I'll go through it in my mind to
Sure.
kind of see if I organize my thoughts and whatnot.
Yep,
All right.
yep.
All right. May 3rd, 2001. All right, let's start again. May 3rd, 2001, the unimaginable happened. See, that day was the first time that me and my sister both slept out of our home during high school. I slept at my girlfriend's house that day, and that morning when I wake up, um, I pick up a phone and I call my mom. Right as I'm driving into school, I call my mom. Um, was calling her because we had played. There was a running joke in the house that we were going to win the lottery. And I was calling her to tell her that we had won the lottery, which we didn't. She didn't pick up the phone. I get to school, go about my morning. As I get into my first period, Mr. Eisenberg's class, I sit down on the chair. Boom, my phone rings. Ring, ring, ring. It's my sister. I pick up. Luani, Richie, Richie, Richie. She's crying on the phone. Richie. My heart drops. I knew something was wrong. Immediately, I hang up. I run out of class. Mr. Eisenberg runs behind me, says, "Richie, Richie, come back!" And I just kept running. Go to my car, and I drive as fast as I can to my house. As soon as I walk into the house, I see my aunt. I see my dad's cousin there. My maid was there, and then right in front of me is my sister. I run to her, hug her, and she's crying in my ear and says, "Richie, they took him. They took him." That's the moment I found out that my mother and father had just been kidnapped. The fear, real fear that I was feeling at that moment, I can't even begin to put that into words. But there was something inside of me that was like, all the adults in the room were frozen. I'm like, let's call the police. As we're discussing if to call the police, if not to call the police, everybody's saying, no, wait, hold on. Ring, ring, ring. The phone rings. It's my mother. My aunt picks up, puts it on speaker, and my mother's saying, everybody stay still. Don't do anything. Don't call the police. See, my gut instinct kept saying to call the police, yet my mother is telling us not to call the police. Within a couple hours, kidnappers pick up, call us, and say, "Hey, we're watching you. Stay in the house. Don't do anything. Stay still. This will be over soon." Another phone call comes in. It's my mother. Don't call the police. Then my father gives us a call, and he speaks to a friend of his that was there at the house at that moment, and he gives him instructions as to saying what he has to give when the kidnappers show up to the house. And from that moment, 12 hours must have passed. My mother, my mother gets uh with some men shows up to it was my aunt's and my grandmother's house. And the instructions that were given by my father was for her to give up the two safes that were outside. My mother ends up breaking down that entire house and gives up all the money that was in that house. As they're leaving, the kidnappers, the story that was told to me, a 19-year-old boy, was that the kidnappers told my mother to stay and they would let her know when they released my father. And she then says to them, "You promised me that if I gave you everything, you would let us go together. So please take me back to my husband and either release us together or kill me next to him." At that moment, as a 19-year-old boy, the belief that I made up around my mother and that experience when I heard that was, believed of unworthy, for her not wanting to come back to be with me, not enough. And those were the stories and the narratives that were running me for a long time, yet I didn't even know it at that moment. A handful of days after, 3, 4 days, our phone rings and the kidnappers give us a call and they say, have a message from your mother and your father. The message from your mother was, have faith in God. The message from my father was, with the little money that you have, don't trust anybody. And that was the last I ever heard of my mom and dad. It's happened 23 years ago. Some of you right now must be thinking like, wow, like, what the fuck? What a story. Like, wow, it's so heartfelt. It's so crazy that this even happened here in this country. And others might be thinking, well, how does this relate to me and my business? Yes, it's super terrible what you went through, but how does this relate to me? Stick with me for a bit because I'm about to get to there. See, how many stick with me for a bit because I'm about to get there. How many of you here in this room have been holding on to pain for far too long? The stories or the narrative that you tell yourself or the meaning that you've been giving to a certain event. And then you're kind of like repeating the cycle of self-sabotage. See, if that's you, I can relate too, because I did that for 2.5 decades. Or how many of you are maybe scared of what the market's going to do and are seeing that the market is changing right in front of you and you don't know which direction to take? And you're scared to make the wrong choice or take the wrong direction because it literally could cost you your business. Shit, I've been there too. I was literally scared when I lost my mom and dad, not knowing what to do when my two primary caregivers were ripped out of my life. I was fucking scared. And for the next decade, yeah, I took action. Yes, with the little money that I had, I took risk and I went into real estate. And the person that I trusted, the first person that said, hey, let's build a house, let's put $500,000. I put my $500,000 in, sir. He got a loan. We go build a house. Well, guess what? I got screwed out of that deal. I lost $500,000. Now there's real fear, real panic. Like, oh my God, I barely have any money left. What am I going to do? And then I go in and I said, well, the only skill I have at that time, I'm a 20-year-old, maybe, and 19 and a half, 20 years old, whatever it may be. I'm like, the only skill I really have is martial arts. I did that for my entire life since I was 3 years old. I reconnected with an old teacher of mine. He had one school. Well, let's open up 3. Let's grow this. Let's turn it into a franchise. I thought that was going to be the direction I was going into. And just so happens that another person in my life betrays me. See, because I made a decision out of fear. At that time, I didn't know it, but I was making a decision out of fear. I have this pot of money. I've lost a ton of it already. I need to do something with it. I went to something that felt safe, that felt known, that felt where I was, good at. And boom, making a decision out of fear, I end up losing again. How many of you have made a decision out of fear in your business and it's cost you real money, but you continue to repeat the cycle, right? That self-sabotage cycle. Because it's not until you truly get clear of the meanings and the beliefs that are running you subconsciously can you begin to reframe and shift and then be able to make decisions that empower not only you and your business, but empower your team. I just lost my train of thought.
You're doing incredible. Keep going.
Ah,
And the state is everything.
ah. Oh, okay, whatever. How many of you in here have heard of Joe Dispenza? Raise your hand. If you don't, awesome, great. For those of you that don't, please go follow him. That is somebody that early on I read, some of his books, started listening to his teachings, and what he talks about, the quantum theory of reality, is actually something that my father taught me very early on when I was 7 years old doing martial arts. Seeing, just to summarize what that what Joe Dispenza talks about. It's basically our thoughts become our reality. What you think is what you create into existence. And at a 7 years old, I'll never forget this. My father taught me a beautiful lesson, which I was able then to carry on through the rest of my life, through that every moment, every obstacle, whether it was in business, whether it was when I went bankrupt after the '08 financial crisis, whether it was when I moved to New York and, enrolled in school, graduated at NYU, went into Wall Street. Every moment I've taken this lesson with me. And basically, it was when I was a child at 7 years old. I've been competing martial arts for 5 years, sorry. And my father, one day after losing another tournament, my spirit is broken. He gets down on a knee and looks at me and says, "Son, are you tired of losing?" And I'm like, "Of course, Dad, with every part of my being." And he's like, "Well, then I need you to begin to see yourself in the future as a champion. I need you to feel it. I need you to think it. I need you to be it, possess it with every part of your being. I need you to be a champion." See, and at that moment, I believe it was my dad's sheer belief in me that is what, because I didn't really conceptually understand what he was telling me, not until I was older, but his sheer belief in me, that was, the work ethic, the discipline, the consistency, and the work ethic of like training instead of one hour for 3 days. I went to training 7 days a week, 3 hours. And that helped me then become state champ, national champ, junior Olympic champ. And the lesson there was that first you got to visualize it. So you got to see yourself achieving what it is that you want. If you're scared of the market changing, if you're scared of like who's coming out as president now and what's that going to impact my business, well, begin to visualize and see yourself. These are the problems. These are the scenarios I'm seeing. Where's the solution? How is it that I'm going to adapt before this problem arises? And the solution, because you have it within yourself. I had it within myself. I had never won and I became a champion. And then the second part to that is you gotta be it, which is what Joe Dispenza talks about. You gotta be it, think it, possess it. Your thoughts, what you think about, what's driving here subconsciously in your brain, that is what's then going to create the reality that you live in, right? And for me, my thoughts for a long time were self-sabotaging thoughts. It was, well, I'm not good enough. Oh, I can't make money without my parents. Oh, I need my father's guidance to show me the way. Yet, from the age of 19 to 29, I made over $5 million, raised over $10 million in real estate projects. But then I blew it all up and lose it and ended up going bankrupt. Why? Because the thoughts that were governing me were thoughts of, shit, I can't do this without my dad. I need his guidance. I need his help. I didn't believe and trust in myself yet. So where is it in your business that you are leading from a self-sabotaging thought, from a negative thought? And how can you begin to reframe it? It might be an event. It might be something that happened. And you, instead of seeing it as a failure, where's the lesson in it? Right? Because one of the questions I like to ask myself now today is, hey, this event happened. Yes, it's tragic. But the story, the meaning that I give it, does it serve me? And if the answer is no, it doesn't serve you, then how do I reframe that? How do I reframe that thought to a serving thought, to a meaning, and reframe the meaning into something that's going to empower me? For a long time, the meaning I gave of my mom leaving and choosing to leave was that I was unworthy, that she didn't love me. And that spilled into intimate relationships for me. Yet, when I reframed the thought and said, you know what? My mother loved me so much that she decided to give up her life so that me and my sister could live. When I reframed that thought, what I created in my relationships, especially intimate relationships, was beautiful. Because now that belief that was one hurting me and limiting me is now empowering me. So I ask you in your business today, what's the event or what is the thought that might be negative, that you might be worried about 24/7? If this happens, if the market changes, if my competitor continues to grow at this rate, what is the thought that's driving you crazy that you're worried about? And how can you reframe that? How can you ask yourself, is this serving me in the moment? And if it's not serving you, then where is the lesson in this? Where is the gift? Where is God's will in this that I can see to pivot and empower me to take the direction that serves my client base. Lost my train of thought again. Ah. Ah. I don't know. Then the close, and then I guess from there go to the close, and the close will be something like, you see, my mission is to be able to empower people just like you to get out of here, your head, and the fear and the lack of, and drop here into your heart. And I believe that if you can drop into your heart and we could reframe this fear narrative that's driving you, well, then not only are you going to succeed and lead your team and succeed in your business, but now you're going to create real impact. You're going to create real legacy. Because once you're leading from here, from your heart space, you're not only empowering your team, but you're coming from a place of service, of adding value to your customers. You're putting your customers before your own needs. And that's where the real magic happens. See, I'm committed to raising the collective vibration of our planet and having everybody drop here because that's where my real passion is. That's what I really, really want for everybody here. All right, that's it. I'm up. It just sucks.
You did it.
Yeah.
What were 3 things you did perfect? Incredibly well. 3 things.
um, the story of my mom, the reframing story, I think was well. That's it.
2 more. So your story of your mom was really well. I agree. What else?
The lessons, my father, Joe Dispenza, be it, see it. I missed the third lesson there, which was take action and consistency, hard work, action. So I didn't even get to that part. I skipped it, but I
Mm-hmm.
think I did the first two okay.
Yeah.
And the
You
beginning
did.
part of beginning part of the story.
Mm-hmm. So the opening, the story with your mom, and then basically the action steps. So let's say 80% of what you just said. Sometimes we can focus on those 20%. And yes, there will be stuff that we can make better. And so will it be every single time. So know that you're doing the work, you're doing it like you're riffing it. You're way shorter. You're in 15 minutes. You got to the point, right? You did phenomenal. And is it okay if I show you in a little step what could be even better for your live tomorrow? So you're going to go live tomorrow?
So I was going to ask you tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to make the class. I
Ah,
have, I have, with my real estate broker, she, whatever, she put me into some training workshop that she pretty much wants me to like take all these nuggets out of and make a
yeah.
training for her. So it's once a week, and last week was the first one. It was on Friday. It's supposed to be mainly on Fridays, but this week, the second week, they put it on a Wednesday.
Okay. So you can be there on Thursday?
Yes, Thursday I'll be there.
Okay, then I'll put you on Thursday.
Okay, cool.
So Thursday you're going, and what I would advise you is really watch back the training from Wednesday, because what you're going to see is you're going to see other people do the full entire talk, just like you did now. Like this was great for Thursday. You want to upgrade it, you want to get feedback, you want to do it every single time better, but you don't need to do it perfectly, but you get a lot from other people. So it will help you create your own talk by watching back the other people. And now I want to quickly show you. I'll share my screen. This is you. and this is your talk based on what you just did and how I listened to it. So I just want to kind of like run you through how the system works on the talk that you just did and how we can optimize it first by looking at the system. Okay?
All right.
So basically what I was hearing is you have 3 teaching points. The first one is make a decision out of fear. Then you had the Joe Dispenza or actually this is more like somewhere there in the now, right? So you control your thoughts, you visualize the outcome, you are it, and then you are consistent. And then you shared something about choosing a powerful meaning. So what we want, because you basically share the first thing and then you went to the second thing here, is what we want to create is really, really clear. Like, what are the 3 teaching points that got you from A to B? So the A to B, the A would be, I can't do it without my parents, or there's a negative meaning. You give something and I can do it by myself, and you give a positive meaning to what you learned. These are the things I listened for. These are the things you said, okay? Then when we look at the story, and here I have a suggestion. So basically, okay, I'll stop sharing my screen. Basically, what you did, if I put it in story blocks, you told the story about the kidnapping. It took around, let's say, 7 or 8 minutes, and then you said, now some of you may think, what a crazy story, and some of you and the other people might think, what is this has to do with sales? Now look what I wrote down at minute 3. You might be wondering, holy shit, I've never heard a story like this before. And then secondly, what has this to do with sales? So we're on the same track. And what I would do is I would start exactly the way you did. Right? We can like really get into detail. Like once you get really like revved up and you want to like really finalize it, we can like really go through it and get the whole full thing like optimized, like every single millisecond of it. Right now, what I would do is I would start the same, and then when you say our parents are kidnapped, then I would cut it. So now you keep sharing about like how the story continues. I'm curious about it, but not yet. So what I would do is after you say, our parents got kidnapped, I would say, okay, so now I've shared this story in a couple of groups now. And every time what I heard is one of these 2 reactions. And maybe you have both. Let's see. One is like, holy shit. I've never ever heard a story, and maybe you get a little uncomfortable around it even. Raise your hand if that's you. And then the other thought is, Richie, this is a crazy ass story, but I thought we were here to learn sales. Like, what does this has to do with this? Is that if that's you? Okay, it's okay. That's okay. Well, my name is Richie, and or something around this. Like, and yes, that's what we're here to do. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to share the 3 main takeaways that got me from, and then you will say something about money. Depending on my parents for money to earning well over blah 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 $1 million in a time span of this year, these things. Or what you can do is, okay, so if that's you, that's okay. Because we are going to talk about sales, because who wants to up-level their sales? Who wants to earn more money? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, you are in the right room. Because in the next 60 minutes, 30 minutes, we're going to talk about how you get from here to here. How's that sound? And I can do it in the most factual way, and I can tell you exactly what numbers to track and how to do. But haven't you had that before? Or what I would do you a disservice. Because the truth of the matter is, and write this down, 80% of your sales results are not written in a script. 80% of the yeses or got me to those millions and millions of dollars is because of these 3 takeaways that I learned from that moment when my parents are kidnapped. So is it okay if I continue the story so I don't leave you hanging and you have to go home wondering like what happened? Why is he standing here now? And while we go through it, you get the 3 most important insights that will get you to your next level sales transformation. Is that okay? Now they're in. Now they're
Got it.
listen to the full thing. And now we want to know, okay, what are those 3 things? So it's not like kind of this and this and this. Like you will know it's 1, it's 2, and it's 3. So now you can start to think, okay, what specific scenes with the, let's call it kidnap story, is connected to what specific teaching point. So when you're saying these 3 moments, or you can even say, I learned from my dad, and I'm gonna bring you along. The first thing when we were like, so now when I had the phone in my hand, like I got racing into old memories. And then there's the first story with the first teaching point. There's the second scene with the second teaching point. There's the third scene with the third teaching point. Does that make sense? And then in
Yeah.
between
I,
those scenes, you will make transitions.
I get that part. I have a question though. So the way that I had originally done it, okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, I stop right there when I hug my sister and she tells me, boom, they're kidnapped, and then go into like the transition and tell them what they're here for. Oh, I understand that part. But I was like listing, like in my mind, the way that I was doing was like I was listing like 3 problems. Like my
Yep.
initial problem was I had like true fear of like making the wrong choice, right? So that was like my first problem. Then second, I guess self-sabotage, like do I list those things or am I going to the results? Or am I doing both? I guess that's my question.
You will do both, but I want to get into I want to be in your talk earlier. So what I just said, I would still do around like maybe minute 2 or minute 3. Because otherwise I'm just listening like, okay, I get it, but I'm not with you. I'm not with you. So I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, oh, this guy, I want to give him a hug later. And thank you for some insightful thoughts, right? I want you to talk to me. And with those kind of moments, you're making your story my story, and it's about me.
Right, right.
So you want to look through, and do you have access to the course? What you can do, because I know you're like a guy who loves going all in, and I appreciate about you. So when in the course, I recorded some models which says optimization lenses. We already talked about them. What you can do is look through those lenses when you're upgrading your talk. Like what can you, especially the engagement loops, right? So every time it's like, what about you? You can pause. You can do all kind of different things, but you want to make sure that people are keep being in their story, in their own story, right? And then my dad said, Richie, right? So now, Richie, what thought were you thinking? Thoughts create your reality. What were you thinking, Richie? What were you thinking when you turned down when the sales rep said no? What was in your mind? Hopefully he's gonna buy it, or I'm claiming the sale. I know that I have a product that people need. I know, and now you're listing the thoughts. So what do you think, Richie? And in that moment, you see, so you're starting with yours. Now you're transitioning to them and you're continuing the story, but you do that so many times, it's always about them. Do you get where I'm going?
Yeah.
Does it help?
Yeah, it does. I think the part that I'm still I guess like I don't know that I'm trying to find. Uh, I'll find it. I'll figure it out. Is what I said? Like, okay, I get it, but to list like a problem. Am I supposed to like list one problem, list three problems, list a problem, and then tell them, hey, I'm gonna walk you through and show you how I overcame these problems, and then tie the problem back to them.
Yeah, what I would do is I would, for now, because you know it all. So now to create clarity is to focus on the three teaching points. So you're going to bring them from where they are to where they want to go, which is basically in the beginning you say, this is where I started and now I got millions and millions of dollars. Who's excited about this? There's three takeaways. And then you go one by one. But in order for you to give one takeaway, you first will tell what they're struggling with, right?
Okay.
So with the
Okay,
thought,
now
for example,
I get it. Now I get it. That's what I was like I'm unsure of like do I list problems and I say a story then of a problem story and
yeah,
then I go into like the takeaway. No, I'm gonna say I'm gonna give you three takeaways, but in the teaching lesson there's a problem and here's a solution. Now
exactly.
now I got
Yeah, so
it.
opening, problem, teaching point, example, problem, teaching point, example, problem, teaching point, example, close. And in those moments, you can weave and weave and weave, and then there's a whole through line as well. So people, it's not like just a chunk of stuff, but the storyline of your kidnap can be the through line, and you will go here and then here and then here and then here. Did you watch the TEDx talk of Duncan? I think I shared it once.
Is that the guy that was talking about was it elephants or something?
No,
Uh,
I will share it with you because this will be helpful. Your talk will be a little similar, totally not of the story, but the outlines. I think it will help.
This is how.
I will share it on WhatsApp.
okay.
Cool. Anything you feel you need? What can I help you with?
Uh, Nothing. I will bring my in game on Thursday.
Perfect. Perfect. Cool. All
Yeah.
right. And imagine if there would be something next. Like, what do you feel like after the Speaking Academy would be a great help for you?
Something next. Just to get myself out there, I guess is what I need to. That's the next thing for me is just to get myself out there to reach out to people, which is what I have not been doing. Right, like the way that I'm seeing it is this video that I'm gonna make in 2 weeks, or actually Thursday I'm making one, but the final one will be in 2 weeks. It's gonna be like my promo video. That's the way I see
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
So to be able to use that, whether it's sliding to somebody's DM, whether it's saying, "Hey, look, I've been following you for a long time. I think you're amazing, whoever it may be, and I would love to serve your audience for free, right? Like, take a look at this. If you think we're lying, and what I don't know, something where I send them my video and see what happens, and just start putting myself out there more. And I think that's next steps for me.
And what is the timeline of you wanting that? Like, when would you like to start?
Oh, as soon as that video is done.
Mm, gotcha. As soon as possible. What's the
Yeah.
big dream of you getting on the stage this year? What
Huh?
would what would it look like for you to your stage moment this year?
This year to get on a stage, maybe it's just me doing something for free on social media, right? And
Mm-hmm.
inviting people to come to whatever, some free workshop where I give some teaching moments.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I think that's doable and could happen this year. Yeah.
Cool. Good stuff, man. You're an inspiration. You're an inspiration, and more people should hear about it. And I'll tell you a little bit later. Oh, the sun is crazy. A little bit about it as well, because I've heard that from other people. So we're looking at like how can I support you doing that as well. So I'll share some more later on where it's more crystallized.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. I'll share the recording with you so you're able to watch it back if you want to. I'll share the link of the Miro, also with the feedback. I'll share the link of the Miro with you as well as the talk of Duncan.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Cool. You got it, man. See you
All
Thursday.
right. See you.
Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.